Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another day of our Summer Reading Club programming. And today is Wednesday. And on Wednesdays, what we like to do is have some fun with some different activities and crafts that promote wellness and happiness and just overall relaxation. So today we have a really fun one planned. It will be making this really cool rainbow design using a technique called weaving. Now, what you'll need for today's craft is a paper plate. What I'd recommend is getting one that's a little bit sturdier and doesn't fold as easily, because that will mean that when you actually put the yarn in itself, it'll be a little bit sturdier and won't fold or anything like that on you. You will also need some scissors. Even if you just have one pair of scissors, that works too, but I'm just going to be using two, as this one I'll be using for the plates and this one I will be using for the yarn. I would also recommend grabbing a pencil or any writing utensil for that matter, because when you are actually trying to, should I say, measure out the different slots and little cuts that you need here, using a pencil first is a lot easier to gauge where exactly you need to cut. And last but not least, I would recommend grabbing some yarn, but string works as well. I just like the yarn because it's a little bit thicker and easier to use, but if you happen to have a bunch of string or yarn hanging around the house, this is a great opportunity to use them. And I have a bunch of different colors because of course I'm going to be making a rainbow today. So the first step of our craft today is, with your paper plate, what you're going to want to do is cut it in half. Now for me, I have my paper plate here that was cut in half from the last time I did the craft. So I'm just going to use this one here today. And what you'll need to do is, grabbing your pencil, mark down where you want each slot to be. Now, as you see in the example here, there is one at the bottom in the middle of your paper plate, and there is 7 at the top. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, just like so. So what I did, and I found helped quite a bit, was I found my middle point in the plate here, doesn't have to be exact, and then cut that. And then I did just a straight line all the way up here, and then I cut this one too. It makes it a little bit easier so your actual cuts look a little bit straighter. So for me, that's about the half point, and I'm going to just cut it. Now your cuts, they don't have to be too deep within the paper plate itself. Just make sure they're deep enough for actual yarn to get in there later. So now, because I have this one at the bottom, I'm just going to do a straight line at the top here. So they're nice and even, just like so. And for your cuts at the top of your plate, what you want to do is get it so it's just past this little lip here, the outside rim, if you will, because that way it will be able to fit the yarn in no problem. So now that we have the one at the bottom and the one at the top, we need 6 more at the top here. And because we already have our middle point, all we have to do is just count 3 more on this side and 3 more on this side. So again, if you need to use your pencil, it can make it a lot easier for just tracing. And I'm going to do 1, 2, and 3, just like so. So I have the middle, and then 1, 2, 3, just like that. And then do the exact same thing on the other side. I'm going to do 1, 2, and 3. Just like so. And then I have my 1, 2, and 3 right there. So then just grab your trusty scissors and cut out the different slits, again, just to the rim, if that helps with kind of eyeballing it a little bit more. There we go. And then the other side. Just like that. Now I have my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and my 8 right here. But as you see, have the 7 slits. There we go. And my 1 at the bottom. Awesome. Now what you'll want to do next is grab whatever yarn you're going to be using for the kind of outside, I say kind of like a little bit of a perimeter with the yarn here. And that'll be what we're using for our actual weaving. And for me, as you see, I just used black, as you see on the back here. And I'm just going to do the exact same thing with the example today. So it doesn't matter how long the yarn is. For me, I just grabbed one end. I found the loose end from the yarn, and I just made sure that it was on the back of the paper plate here, just like so. Okay, you see I have this little piece hanging off. This will be important later because this will be what I use to tie to the other end of the yarn here. Now, what we're going to want to do with the longer piece of yarn that isn't in the back, we will then want to put it through each one of our 7 slots at the top. So then just like this, we put it through number 1, and then we bring it back down to the middle and put it back there, just like so. And then number 2, bring it back down to the middle, 3, and then just keep repeating the process until you have all 7 of your slots here filled with your yarn, just like that. There we go. And once you've filled all 7 of your slots, you're going to want to cut this extra longer piece of yarn. And that will be what we use to tie to this piece of yarn. So just make a basic knot. For me, what I always do is I do a double knot. It's super easy and simple, but it also keeps the yarn tight and the knot from breaking and coming loose. Just like that, you see? Now it's nice and straight, and with these extras, you can just grab your scissors and cut them off because we don't need them anymore. There we go, just like this. And you see, your front looks like so. Pretty neat, right? So all 7 of your slots are filled, and it's tied at the back. Now, this is where the fun part comes in. We can grab our first color. For me, I'm using blue, just because we don't have purple today, as you see, and then we're gonna be working our way up the pattern. Now, you find your end for your first color. I find that's always one of the trickiest parts with working with yarn, is to make sure it doesn't get tangled. And I say I like about this length, just like so. It's not too long, it's not too short. So for me, it's about an arm's length long, but I know that will look different for everyone. So mine looks just about like this, not too long. And I'm gonna be grabbing my one end, and then I'm going to be making a little bit of a knot in the bottom corner right here with my end. And what that does is it keeps your first color of yarn from slipping and falling out of your paper plate while you're doing your weaving technique. And as you see, I just put a simple knot right there, which when I pull on it, it keeps it from coming out. Now, very, very important with this, what the weaving technique is basically when you just grab string, yarn, anything like that, and put it in and around or through another piece of string or popsicle sticks, anything like that. So what we'll be doing today with our weaving is we're going to be grabbing the other end of our yarn here, and then we're going to be weaving in and out of each of our 7 strands of yarn. So it's already nice and knotted here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go under this first one, just like so. And now that it's under this first one, I'm going to go over the next one. And then, as I'm sure you guys probably guessed, I'm going to go under the next one and then over. And then, sorry, it may be a little bit difficult to do as I'm showing you guys here, but it's just under, over, under, over, under, over. And just repeat that process. And then once you get to about the end, just pull, as you saw what I did there, your yarn through. And now I'm all the way over here. I've done all of these different strands. And then what I'm gonna do is just wrap it under this last one here. So then grabbing your end and then just wrapping it through. And then if you notice, because you're on the other side now, and it's an uneven number of strands, there's 7, that means that we're just gonna be repeating the exact same technique that we did before, but I'm going to be starting with over. And what that will do is then, as you see, because last time when I went through, this one I went under, and then over, and then under, where this time I'm gonna be doing over, under, over. And that will help create our pattern. So yeah, just keep going, and it can be nice and relaxing. It doesn't take too much thinking or effort, which I always appreciate when it comes to a craft, because I like how relaxing they can be and how fun and rewarding it can be when you're finished. And then again, just keep going with your over and under technique. Nice and easy. And as you see, a pattern is starting to slowly develop here. And of course, the more you weave, go in and out, up and around, all the way through, the bigger your design will be of that color. So I'm just gonna do, I think, 1 or 2 more, and then I will show you what to do when you're ready to move on to your next color. Now, I find also one more thing just to mention with your weaving is, if you find that your loose end of yarn is frayed or starting to break apart, as you see with mine, it's not quite as sturdy and thick as it once was, that will basically be when you might want to consider grabbing some tape or something like that and just taping the top of it so it's a little bit easier to grab, and then the string isn't separating. And I find if you're using a lot thinner material, like a thinner string, it can fray really easily and makes it so difficult to get the actual weaving process through. So definitely just something to consider if you're finding that you're having troubles with this craft. There we go. And I'll just go over one more time and then switch out the color. Perfect. Just like so. Now, with your one end here, what you can do is grab the end that you have previously, this one right here, and then you can tie them together. Or what you can do is just with your end wherever you're finished, you can just tie a regular knot here in and around the black yarn again, and then that way that'll keep a knot, so all of your wonderful weaving won't be undone, and all of that hard work won't be for nothing. So I will just cut right here. There we go, because I'm happy with the length of my yarn right now. And then I'm just going to tie a basic knot in and around this guy right here, so that way it stays nice and tight. There we go. And just like that, my knot is finished. So once I'm happy with that, I can then cut this end so it's not sticking out. And voila, you're finished with your first color. Now, when you want to get to your next color, all you gotta do is grab your next little bit of string, and I will grab some green for today. And just find your loose end, just like this, and then do the exact same thing that you did before. Let's say I'm happy with this length. I will then cut it, just like so. Again, completely up to you how long or how short you make it. And you wanna grab your end, and then again, just tie it. Now, what I would recommend doing is, because last time I tied my color blue yarn over here, I am going to tie a knot with my green over here. It doesn't make too much of a difference, but I figured just because that way it won't have all of the knots on one side. So yeah, my green is a little bit thinner than my blue was, so it can be a little bit more difficult to actually tie the knot, but have some patience with this craft, because I promise it will be well worth it in the end. There we go. just like that. And you see, I have my knot here, I can pull my green, and it doesn't come out. Now with this, again, same technique as before, the same weaving, I'm gonna go under, then over, and then under, and then over, and just keep repeating that process. And really that covers everything you need to know in doing this craft. You can add as many or as little colors as you would like, but as long as you keep with that very same technique, it will make for a really, really awesome design later, as you see here. Now I just used my different colors for a rainbow here, minus purple of course. But whatever you would like to do with this kind of craft or this technique is completely up to you. Something else I can mention is I've also seen with these weaving techniques amazing designs out there. Like there was this one of a panda, and it was super awesome and really detailed. But of course that's when you get to be a little bit more advanced with the weaving technique. And something else you can do is grab your full plate instead of just the half plate, and then do the exact same thing that you've done here, just on both sides. So you'll have, say, 14 slits, and then you'll want to make sure you just have that little slit in the bottom. And you can do that very same thing with a full plate, and that gives you just that much more space for a design. Now, if you're really interested in the actual weaving techniques, I did a video early on also with our Summer Reading Club programming, and it was with popsicle sticks and yarn and the baby turtle, and we did a kind of technique of weaving called the God's Eye, and that's where it makes kind of like a bullseye looking design, which is really cool and fascinating. But there are a lot of resources out there. Pinterest is a fantastic one if you just want a little bit of inspiration on what to do for your weaving. But that'll be everything for today. Thank you guys very much for joining me. I had tons of fun as always, and I hope you all have a tremendous rest of your day. Have a good one, everyone.